"You weren't invited here. Convicts have no place at my wedding," my son yelled at me, embarrassing me in front of the guests. I wanted to leave, but deciding to remind him of who I went to prison for, I took the microphone and told everything. The bride's father was in absolute shock. Ryan Sterling was an ambitious and determined 30-year-old man. He was building his career at a large corporation where he met Emily. From their very first date, he formulated a long-term plan in his mind that was supposed to guarantee him a financially stable life. Ryan stopped in front of the massive oak door of the CEO's office and adjusted his tie. 30 was the perfect age for radical life changes. He smoothed his perfectly styled hair and looked at his reflection in the polished brass plaque that read, "Martin Roberts, Chief Executive Officer." The reflection showed a confident man in an impeccably tailored suit, but Ryan knew that beneath that outward confidence hid a carefully crafted plan meant to change his entire life. During the last 2 years working at Golden Horizons, he had studied every detail of the corporate hierarchy, every weakness of their competitors, and, most importantly, every quirk of the company owner's personality. Mr. Roberts valued loyalty, ambition, and family values. Furthermore, he had an only daughter, Emily, who worked in the marketing department and whom Ryan had begun actively courting about a year ago. He knocked on the door with 3 short taps, exactly how Mr. Roberts liked it. Not too timid, not too bold. "Come in," the familiar deep voice called out. "Mr. Roberts, you wanted to see me?" Ryan entered the office, trying to keep his posture straight but not too stiff. The office was impressively spacious, even after 2 years of working at the company. Floor-to-ceiling panoramic windows offered a sweeping view of the downtown Chicago business district. A massive mahogany desk occupied the center of the room, and the walls were decorated with diplomas, awards, and photographs with important political figures. Behind the desk sat Mr. Roberts, a 8-year-old man with graying temples and piercing gray eyes. "Yes, Ryan, take a seat." He nodded toward the leather armchair in front of the desk. "How are things? Projects are moving forward." "Everything is under control, Mr. Roberts. The contract with Northern Tech is signed. Profits exceeded projected metrics by 12%. Excellent." Mr. Roberts leaned back in his chair and looked intently at Ryan. "Do you know why I invited you in?" Ryan's heart began to beat faster, but externally he remained calm. He suspected what this was about, but he didn't want to show overconfidence. "I assume it's work-related, but I'd prefer to hear the details from you." "Smart," the CEO smiled. "You're already aware that we are sending off our Mr. O'Connor for his retirement." "I heard about that." Ryan nodded cautiously. He really had heard water cooler talk that the head of the strategic planning department had finally decided to step down. "Mr. O'Connor gave 40 years to our company. First, he served my father, then me. A man of gold, but time is relentless." Mr. Roberts stood up and walked over to the window. "His position is opening up, and I need a worthy successor." Ryan waited in silence for him to continue, trying not to reveal the overwhelming excitement rushing through him. Everything was going exactly as he had planned. "I thought a lot about the candidates," Mr. Roberts continued without turning around. "I considered Mr. Sanders from the finance department, Mr. Davis from legal. They have experience, but they lack something." "What exactly?" Ryan dared to ask. "Fire in their eyes, real ambition, the desire to not just work for a paycheck, but to build an empire." Mr. Roberts turned back to face him. "And you have that. I've watched you these past 2 years. You don't just complete assigned tasks, you exceed expectations. You think ahead. Thank you for the high praise, Mr. Roberts. That's why I want to nominate you for this position. Can you handle it?" Ryan paused, acting as if he were carefully weighing the proposal, even though his answer had been ready for a long time. "It's a serious responsibility," he said slowly, "but I feel I have the strength to take on these challenges." "Of course, Mr. Roberts. I promise to justify your expectations." "Perfect." Mr. Roberts returned to his desk and sat down. "We'll announce it officially at the Monday morning meeting. Your salary will increase by 1.5 times, plus profit-sharing bonuses. Sound good?" "More than good." Ryan couldn't hold back a smile. Mr. Roberts poured 2 glasses of cognac from a crystal decanter sitting on his desk. "To new achievements," he said, extending a glass to Ryan. To trust that will not be misplaced, Ryan replied, raising his glass. They drank, and a brief pause settled over the office. Ryan sensed the conversation wasn't quite over. There was something else lingering in Mr. Roberts' eyes. You know, Ryan, I want to speak to you not just as a boss to a subordinate. Mr. Roberts leaned back in his chair. How are things with my daughter? There it was. Ryan had been waiting for this moment. His relationship with Emily was an integral part of his plan, but he understood he needed to handle this with special delicacy. Things are very serious between us, Mr. Roberts. I love her very much. I see that. And she radiates happiness when she talks about you. Warmth crept into the father's voice. You know, after Daphne passed away, I feared Emily would never find a worthy man. She's a bit picky, somewhat spoiled. Emily is a wonderful, smart, beautiful, kind, and rich girl, Mr. Roberts added with a slight smile. Don't hide it, Ryan. I understand the financial aspect matters too. The main thing is that your feelings are sincere. Ryan felt his insides tighten. If Mr. Roberts only knew how calculated his feelings truly were. Mr. Roberts, I want to propose to Emily. Do I have your blessing? The CEO's eyes lit up. Seriously? When do you plan to do it? Soon. I wanted to speak with you first, to get your blessing. She's been waiting for this for a long time. Mr. Roberts stood up and walked around the desk. You're a good kid, Ryan. I see how you treat her. Don't delay the proposal. I won't. Ryan also stood up from the armchair. And one more thing, Mr. Roberts put a hand on Ryan's shoulder. After the wedding, you won't just be a company employee, you'll be a member of the family. Do you understand what that means? A great responsibility. Exactly. But also great opportunities. Someday, all of this will belong to Emily, and therefore, to you. Ryan nodded, trying to look moved by the prospect of family happiness rather than the immense financial advantages. Mr. Roberts, I value your trust and I promise I will be worthy of both the position and your daughter's hand. It's settled then. Mr. Roberts shook his hand firmly. Go on, get back to work. And regarding the promotion, not a word to anyone for now. We'll announce it officially on Monday. Leaving the office, Ryan could barely contain his jubilation. The plan was working flawlessly. In just half an hour, his life had changed radically. A new executive role, a massive raise, and the blessing to marry the heiress of a multi-million-dollar company. He always knew that by becoming Emily's boyfriend he could secure a good spot in the firm, but reality had exceeded his wildest expectations. Ryan walked over to his desk in the open office floor and sat down. His colleagues were going about their business, entirely unaware that sitting right next to them was the future head of strategic planning and the son-in-law of Mr. Roberts himself. He pulled out his phone and dialed Emily's number. She answered on the second ring. Hey, babe. Emily's voice was bright with joy. How are things at work? Great, honey. Listen, I want to take you out to a restaurant tonight. A restaurant? What's the occasion? You'll see. It's a surprise. Ryan smiled. Just don't be late. I've put together something special for you. Color me intrigued, Emily laughed. All right, babe. I'll try to be on time. I'll see you at 7 at the Imperial Steakhouse. Dress up for me. Absolutely. I love you. I love you too, Ryan replied, though the words always felt like a chore to say. He put his phone away and leaned back. Tonight he would propose to Emily, and his climb up the social ladder would be practically complete. All that remained was waiting for the wedding and firmly cementing his position in the Roberts family. Ryan glanced at the framed photo on his desk, him and Emily at the corporate holiday party 6 months ago. Emily was smiling at the camera while he held her by the waist. A beautiful couple, everyone would say. A successful young manager and the daughter of an influential businessman. A love story straight out of a glossy magazine. If they only knew the truth about how cold and calculated this love story was, no one would call it beautiful. The Imperial Steakhouse greeted Ryan with the dim glow of crystal chandeliers and soft jazz playing in the background. He had specifically reserved a window table overlooking the city's glittering nighttime skyline. Emily loved those romantic touches. The waiter in white gloves lit the candles on the table and placed a bouquet of white roses in the center. Everything is set, Mr. Sterling, he whispered. The champagne is already chilling. Excellent. And remember, as soon as I drop to one knee, put on the Moonlight Sonata. Emily adores it. Of course. Good luck, sir. Ryan adjusted his cufflinks and checked his watch. 10 minutes to 7. Emily was always exactly on time. Her punctuality sometimes irritated him, but tonight he was grateful for it. Everything had to be perfect. In his suit jacket pocket sat a velvet box with the ring. He had spent a small fortune on it. 3 carats, a flawless diamond, platinum setting. Exactly the kind of ring any high society girl dreamed of receiving. And Emily Roberts, the sole heiress to a multi-million-dollar empire, deserved only the best. "Ryan." The familiar melodious voice rang out. He turned and saw Emily entering the restaurant's dining room. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress that hugged her slender figure. Her blonde hair was swept up in an elegant updo, and a pearl necklace, a gift from her father for her 25th birthday, shone around her neck. "Honey," he stood up and kissed her cheek. "You look incredible." "Thanks, babe. You're acting very mysterious today." She sat across from him, her eyes sparkling in the candlelight. "So, what's the surprise?" "Patience," Ryan smiled. "Let's have dinner first, then we'll talk." The waiter brought the menus, and they ordered Emily's favorite dishes, shrimp salad and beef tenderloin with truffle sauce. Ryan ordered a ribeye steak, though his nerves had completely killed his appetite. "How was your day?" Emily asked, taking a sip of champagne. "Wonderful, even better than I could have imagined." "Tell me more. You've been acting special since this morning." Ryan leaned back in his chair and sighed theatrically. "Can you believe your dad told me today that I'll soon be taking Mr. O'Connor's place?" "Seriously?" Emily's eyes widened in shock. "He really offered you the position?" "Not just offered it, he practically appointed me. They'll announce it officially on Monday." Ryan couldn't hide the pride in his voice. "That is fantastic, babe." Emily reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I always knew you were an ambitious man. I am so proud of you and your new achievements." She raised her glass. "To the best man in the world." Their glasses clinked. Ryan felt a warm wave of satisfaction spread through his chest, not because of Emily's words, but because of how flawlessly his master plan was coming together. The position, the salary, the father's trust, and now the proposal that would permanently solidify his place in the Roberts family. "Mr. O'Connor worked at the company for 40 years, he continued. "Your dad said he sees a worthy successor in me. And he's right. Remember what I told you 6 months ago when we first started dating? You're special, Ryan. You have this spark that sets you apart from the rest." If she only knew the real reason behind his interest in her, she hardly would have called it a spark. But Ryan nodded, pasting a look of deep gratitude on his face. "Without you, I wouldn't have achieved any of this." "Nonsense. You achieved it all yourself. I was just there, and that's what matters most." He took her hand in his. "Emily, I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." "This conversation with your dad made me realize something important. I realized what I really want out of life." "And what is that?" She looked at him with such absolute trust that, for a split second, he felt a sharp prick of guilt in his chest. "I want to be with you. Not just date. Not just spend evenings together. I want you to be mine forever." Emily exhaled a breath she had clearly been holding, waiting for his words. "Ryan." But that's not all the surprises. He stood up from the table and pulled the velvet box from his pocket. Right on cue, the restaurant's sound system began playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. Nearby tables turned to watch with interest. Ryan dropped to one knee beside Emily's chair and opened the box. The diamond caught the candlelight, throwing off thousands of tiny sparks. "Emily Roberts, will you marry me?" Emily's eyes filled with happy tears. She covered her mouth with her hands, unable to speak for a moment. Applause broke out across the dining room. The other restaurant patrons watched the romantic scene unfold. "Of course I will," she finally exhaled. "Yes, yes, yes." Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. He had figured out her ring size well in advance by bribing her best friend Chloe, who had gone to a jewelry store with Emily. "It's magnificent," Emily whispered, staring at the diamond. "Ryan, I've waited so long for this moment." He stood up and hugged her, feeling the admiring stares from all around them. A beautiful young couple, a touching proposal, an expensive ring. Everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to look in the eyes of high society. "I love you," Emily whispered in his ear. "I love you too," he replied, though the words still felt like empty sounds to him. They sat back down, and Emily couldn't stop admiring the ring. "Dad is going to be thrilled," she said. He loves you so much. He says you're a real man. Your dad is a wise man. I've learned a lot from him. So, when are we getting married? Impatience bled into his voice. I want to plan everything perfectly. Let's not rush. We need to think everything through. Pick the date, the venue. You're right. It should be a dream wedding. Emily's eyes lit up. Can you imagine? A white dress, a massive bouquet, hundreds of guests. It will be the most unforgettable celebration. Absolutely, Ryan agreed, though he was mostly thinking about how this wedding would permanently cement his social status. Yes, we'll invite everyone we know, all the colleagues, family, friends. Let everyone see what a beautiful love we share, Emily said dreamily. Let them be jealous of how beautiful my bride is. Ryan raised his glass. In reality, he was thinking about something entirely different, how the presence of powerful people at his wedding would boost his own authority, how photos of the reception would end up in the high society pages, and how he would finally go from being just a successful manager to a member of one of the city's wealthiest families. To him, Emily wasn't the woman of his dreams. She was a tool to achieve his ultimate goal. He was too narcissistic and calculating to experience genuine feelings for anyone. Money, status, influence, that was all that truly mattered to him. So, where should we have the reception? She asked, cutting a small piece of beef. At the best hotel in the city? At the Grand Plaza Hotel, for example. Or we could book a country club. The Grand Plaza sounds elegant. They have such beautiful ballrooms, and the photos would turn out spectacular. Exactly. Everything has to be top tier. They spent over an hour discussing the details of the upcoming celebration. Emily was thrilled with every idea, and Ryan nodded along, agreeing while mentally calculating how much it would all cost. By the way, Mr. Roberts would be footing the bill that was tradition. Babe, who will be coming from your side of the family? Emily suddenly asked, and the question struck like a bolt from the blue. Ryan felt his stomach drop. He wasn't prepared for this conversation. Throughout their entire relationship, he had carefully avoided the topic of his family, and Emily, delicate by nature, had never pressed him on it. What do you mean? He asked cautiously, trying to buy time. Well, parents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. I'll have a massive family presence from my dad's side, all his business partners and their wives. Who will be there from your side? Ryan set his fork down and looked out the window. The city sparkled with lights, but he didn't see any of them. In his mind's eye flashed a memory from 10 years ago. His mother behind bars, in a prison uniform, her eyes dead and hollow. Ryan? Emily touched his hand. Are you listening to me? Yeah, sorry. I just spaced out. So, about my relatives. He knew this moment would come sooner or later, but he had hoped to delay it for as long as possible. The truth about his mother could destroy everything he had so carefully built. I didn't want to talk about this because it's a painful subject. He started slowly. I was raised only by my mom. I never knew my dad. He left when I was very little. I understand. And did your mom pass away a long time ago? The words were hard to force out, but he made himself look Emily dead in the eyes. I don't have anyone else to invite. Oh God, honey. Emily's face twisted with deep sympathy. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have asked. It's fine. I just don't like talking about it. Of course, I completely understand. Forgive me. She got up and walked around the table to hug him. Ryan felt her warmth and the scent of her expensive perfume, but inside, he was freezing cold from his own lie. It's okay, babe, Emily whispered. You'll have a new family. Dad loves you like a son, and I will be the best wife in the world. Thank you for understanding. He hugged her back, hating himself for exploiting her kindness. The truth was, he had last seen his mother 8 years ago. He had gone to the state penitentiary not to support her, but to inform her that he had sold their apartment. He needed the money to move to a new city, change his last name from Vance to Sterling, and start a new life. Far away from the shame, the judgmental glares, and the whispering behind his back. Don't be sad. Emily returned to her seat. We have so many happy days ahead of us. The wedding, the honeymoon, our life together. You're right. The future is more important than the past. Exactly. Let the past stay in the past. If she only knew how grateful he was for those words. His past really did need to stay buried forever. For the sake of their shared future. They finished dinner in a lighter mood, discussing honeymoon destinations and plans for the upcoming weekend. Emily radiated pure happiness, admiring her ring and picturing herself in a white dress, and Ryan was counting the days until he would become the husband of Emily Roberts and finally get everything he ever dreamed of. 3 days passed after the proposal, and Emily still hadn't taken the ring off, constantly admiring the diamond. At work, all the colleagues congratulated them, and Mr. Day Roberts beamed with pride, introducing his future son-in-law as the most promising employee in the company. Ryan was sitting at his desk reviewing reports when his office phone rang. "Ryan, come see me," Mr. Roberts' voice came through the speaker. "On my way." Inside the CEO's office, the atmosphere was unusually heavy. The normally energetic and jovial Mr. Roberts was sitting by the window, staring out at the gray October sky. Deep exhaustion and profound sadness were written all over his face. "Mr. Roberts, you wanted to see me?" Ryan asked cautiously, closing the door behind him. "Yes, take a seat," the CEO replied without turning around. "Ryan, today is a very difficult day for our family. Did something happen?" "Today marks exactly 10 years since my wife passed away." Mr. Roberts' voice trembled. 10 years, and it feels like it was just yesterday. Ryan felt his blood run cold. He knew Mr. Roberts' wife was dead, but he had never bothered to ask for the details. The date, 10 years ago. That sounded far too familiar to him. "Please accept my deepest condolences, Mr. Roberts." "Thank you." Mr. Roberts finally turned to face him. His eyes were red from holding back tears. "You know, I would like you to be with us today. Every year on this day, we gather at the house. We remember Daphne. You're a part of the family now. Of course, if you feel it's appropriate, I'd be honored. Emily will be glad. She suffers a lot on this day, and your presence will comfort her. What time should I come over?" "At 7. We usually have dinner. We set her portrait on the table and tell stories about her life. It helps us feel like she's still with us." Mr. Roberts wiped his eyes with a handkerchief. "Forgive me for getting so emotional. It's just, this day is always so hard for me. It's completely natural. You loved your wife very much. Daphne was special, kind, smart, beautiful. Emily takes after her completely." Ryan nodded, feeling his anxiety spiking. The coincidence of the dates couldn't be random. And what happened to her? If it's not a secret, of course. Mr. Roberts' face darkened with anger. "A car accident. Some drunk idiot ran her over at a crosswalk. Daphne was walking home from the theater, just down the street from our house." He clenched his fists. "And that piece of trash didn't even break. It was a hit and run." Ryan felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. "Did they catch her?" "Yes." The very next day, they gave her 10 years in a maximum security state penitentiary. Not that it does any good. It doesn't bring Daphne back. Ryan stood up from the chair, a sudden wave of nausea hitting him. "Mr. Roberts, please excuse me, but I have an important meeting." "Of course. Go. We'll see you tonight. And Ryan, thank you for agreeing to be with us on this difficult day." Walking out of the office, Ryan barely made it to the executive restroom in time. He threw up. Afterward, he stood there for a long time, gripping the edges of the sink, staring at his pale reflection in the mirror. Daphne Roberts. Mr. Roberts' wife, Emily's mother. The woman who, 10 years ago, was struck and killed by his own mother, who was now serving time in prison. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Ryan mechanically went through the motions of his job, answering emails, signing documents, but his mind was entirely consumed elsewhere. At 6 p.m., he went home to change for dinner at the Roberts' house. The upscale downtown apartment he rented suddenly felt foreign and cold. He stood under the shower for a long time, trying to scrub away the feeling of filth. He needed to gather his strength and get through this night so that no one would suspect a thing. He couldn't afford to lose now, not when the finish line was so close. The Roberts mansion was located in an exclusive, wealthy suburb on Chicago's North Shore. It was a sprawling 2-story estate with grand columns, manicured lawns, and luxury cars in the driveway. Everything screamed old money. Ryan had been there several times before, but tonight the mansion looked gloomy and sinister. "Ryan, come in." Emily greeted him in the foyer. She was wearing a black dress, her hair pulled back tightly. She looked heartbroken, but still beautiful. "Hey, babe." He kissed her cheek. How are you holding up? Terrible. Every year on this day, I relive that night like it's the very first time. She linked her arm through his. I'm so glad you came. I really need your support right now. I'll always be here for you. If she only knew how intimately close he was to her tragedy. Mr. Roberts was waiting for them in the living room. He was also dressed in a dark suit and looked incredibly somber. On the fireplace mantel, there were fresh flowers and lit candles. Ryan, thank you for coming. They hugged. It was the least I could do. Let's sit down for dinner. Mrs. Miller made Daphne's favorite dishes. They moved to the formal dining room. The table was set for 4, even though only 3 people were present. The 4th place setting was occupied by a silver-framed portrait. Ryan stepped closer to get a better look at the photograph, and the room started spinning. In the picture was a woman in her early 40s, with kind eyes and a sweet smile, blonde hair, just like Emily's, delicate features. She looked out from the photo as if she were alive, and Ryan recognized her. "Babe, are you okay?" Emily asked, concerned. Ryan's hands instantly started shaking. He balled them into fists, trying to force himself to stay in control. "Yes," he managed to choke out. "Your mom was a very beautiful woman, and you look incredibly like her." "Really?" Emily's voice wavered with tears. "People always told me I took after my dad." "No, definitely your mom." Especially the eyes and the smile. Mr. Roberts poured wine for everyone. To Daphne, to the best wife and mother in the world. "To Mom," Emily whispered. "To Mom," Ryan echoed hollowly, feeling the words getting lodged in his throat. They drank in silence. Then Mr. Roberts started telling stories about his wife's life. "I remember how we first met. She was working at the bank, and I went in to ask for a business loan to expand the company. She was so serious, wearing this sharp business suit, her hair pulled up, and I spent the entire night trying to figure out how to ask her to dinner." "And how did you ask her?" Ryan asked, fighting to sound interested. "It was so romantic." Emily laughed through her tears. "Tell him, Dad. I brought a massive bouquet of roses right to her office, in front of all her coworkers. She turned bright red, but then she agreed to go with me to the theater." "The theater she was coming back from that night?" Ryan asked, and immediately realized he had slipped up. "Yes." Mr. Roberts's face clouded over. "We went there a lot. Daphne loved the ballet. And that piece of trash." "Dad, you don't have to," Emily said softly. "Don't bring that up. Ryan doesn't need to know the horror we went through." Mr. Roberts took a large gulp of wine and continued anyway. "I just can't fathom where that reckless fool's head was at to get behind the wheel in that condition." Tears streamed from Emily's eyes. "I remember that night. Mom wasn't coming home, and Dad and I started panicking. And then the police called. The worst night of my life," Mr. Roberts whispered. "When I saw her at the hospital, she was still alive, but the doctors said there was no hope. Internal bleeding, massive multiple fractures." Ryan sat there paralyzed, listening to every gruesome detail of that night. "Babe," Emily squeezed Ryan's hand. "You're so pale. Do you feel sick?" "No. It's just very hard to hear this. My heart breaks for you both. Thank you for understanding. Not every guy would agree to come over on a day like this." Ryan hugged her, feeling like the most despicable scum on earth. "I'll always stand by you, through thick and thin. I know. That's why I love you so much." The rest of the evening was spent reminiscing about Daphne. Mr. Roberts brought out photo albums, talked about her hobbies, and how she had raised Emily. Ryan listened, knowing deep in his bones that he had absolutely no right to be sitting at that table. By the end of the night, Emily was a sobbing mess. "I miss her so much," she cried, "especially now, right before the wedding. She dreamed so much of seeing me get married. She sees you." Her dad consoled her. "From somewhere up there, she's watching." "You think so?" "I'm positive. And she's proud of you. You grew up to be a wonderful woman, and you found a good man." Ryan just sat there, holding his fiancée, feeling his soul slowly rotting away from the sheer weight of his own lies and hypocrisy. "I should get going," he said around 11 p.m. "Early morning at work tomorrow." "Of course, babe." "Thank you for being with us, Ryan." Mr. Roberts stopped him by the door. "Tomorrow, go down to City Hall and file for the marriage license. It's time to make this official." "Absolutely." Driving home, Ryan had to pull over onto the shoulder of the highway several times to collect himself. The reality of what was happening felt like a waking nightmare. But it was far too late to back out now. There was too much at stake. The ultimate prize was entirely too close. The next day, they really did go to the downtown courthouse and filed for their marriage license. Emily radiated pure bliss as they picked the official date, and Ryan signed the paperwork, fully aware he was signing a pact with the devil. After securing the license, the real chaos began. Emily threw herself completely into the wedding planning, making it her full-time job. Every single day she called Ryan with new ideas, texting him pictures of dresses, bouquets, and reception layouts. "Babe, did you see the last links I sent?" she asked when they met up at a cafe near the office during his lunch break. "Which ones specifically?" "There were like 5 today." Ryan rubbed his temples in exhaustion. "About the color palette, I'm torn between cream and pearl. What do you think? Is there even a difference?" Emily stopped with her coffee cup halfway to her lips and glared at her fiancé. "Of course there's a difference. Cream is warmer, cozier, and pearl is refined and aristocratic. It sets the entire foundation for the wedding's aesthetic." "Then pearl," Ryan answered quickly. "Sounds expensive." "You're not listening again," Emily sighed. "Ryan, it's our wedding. A once-in-a-lifetime event. Do you even care how it turns out?" "Of course I care. I just don't understand these little nuances. I trust your taste." "Fine, pearl it is. Now let's talk about the reception venue." Emily pulled out her iPad and opened a presentation she had clearly spent hours putting together. "Here are our top 3 options. The Grand Plaza Hotel, a classic choice, ultra high-end, but very expensive. Cherry Creek Country Club, a rustic outdoor vibe, nature, a photo shoot in the gardens. And Loft 15, modern, elegant, geared toward a younger crowd." Ryan skimmed the photos and tapped the first option. "The Grand Plaza looks solid." "Yeah, but it has a very stiff, formal atmosphere. I want our guests to feel relaxed, to have fun, so I was leaning toward Cherry Creek. But there's no air conditioning there. What if it's boiling hot out? Plus, being outdoors leaves too much room for unpredictable variables." Ryan set his fork down next to his half-eaten salad. "Emily, what do you want? I want us to make this decision together. I want you to like it too. I like whatever option makes us happy, you and me." That was a lie. Ryan was exclusively thinking about what kind of impression the wedding would make on the guests. He needed more than just a beautiful ceremony. He needed a high society status event that would permanently lock in his position in the corporate world. "Fine," Emily smiled. "The Grand Plaza it is. Dad voted for that one too. Your dad is a wise man. Speaking of Dad, he wants us to invite all the company's business partners. That's a minimum of 150 people right there." "Excellent. The more, the merrier." Emily frowned. "But then it's going to feel more like a corporate gala than a family celebration." "Why? These are people who wish us the best. Half of them don't even know my first name. And some of them are meeting us for the exact first time. But they know Dad, and they know you as his second in command." "Second in command?" Emily looked surprised. "Did Dad promote you again?" Ryan realized he had let his ego slip. After stepping into Mr. O'Connor's role, he truly had become one of the most powerful people in the C-suite, but he hadn't officially been named vice president or COO. "No. I just meant that I hold an important role in the executive structure." "I see. Well, the venue is settled. Now, the cake." Emily opened a new folder with pictures of cakes, massive, multi-tiered buttercream towers decorated with flowers, ribbons, and custom bride and groom toppers. "I love this one." She pointed to a cake shaped like a castle, romantic, like a fairy tale. "A little too childish," Ryan shook his head. "Better to go with something more elegant." "And this one? Too plain." "Then this one? A bit too flashy." Emily closed the iPad and stared intensely at her fiancé. "Ryan, I'm getting the feeling you literally don't like anything. Am I wrong? I just want everything to be perfect." "Perfect for who? For us? Or for your image?" The question caught him entirely off guard. Emily was a smart girl, and sometimes she saw far more than he wanted her to. "For us, of course." "What image are you talking about?" "I don't know. It just feels like sometimes you care more about what people are going to say than about our actual relationship." "That's nonsense. I'm the one who proposed to you. That proves my feelings are what matters most." Emily softened and grabbed his hand. I'm sorry. I'm probably just too stressed. I just want everything to be flawless. And it will be. You'll see. The following week, it was time to pick a photographer. Emily booked appointments with 3 candidates at a downtown photography studio. The first photographer, Paul, showed them his portfolio on a massive monitor. My specialty is classic luxury wedding photography. Beautifully posed shots, romantic angles, timeless elegance. Can we see a price breakdown? Emily asked. Photos of perfectly posed, beaming couples flashed across the screen. The bride and groom at the altar, exchanging rings, the first dance. Very professional, Ryan nodded. What are we looking at for costs? The complete classic package is $8,000. Full-day coverage, editing of the best 300 shots, and a custom leather-bound wedding album. Acceptable. The second photographer, Layla, offered a completely different approach. I specialize in photojournalism and reportage. Raw, vivid emotions, natural moments. Absolutely no stiff, posed shots. Look at this on the screen. A bride throwing her head back in laughter, a groom secretly wiping away happy tears, guests caught in a moment of pure, unscripted joy. Beautiful, Emily admitted. Very alive and natural. But not very dignified, Ryan objected. A wedding is an official, formal event. It needs to be presented properly. Why force an artificial vibe? Layla looked surprised. The most beautiful shots happen when people forget the camera is even there. Perhaps. But we want the photos to reflect the gravity and prestige of the event. The third option was presented by Premium Capture Studios. Their rep, Richard, showed off their most elite, absurdly expensive packages. We strictly cater to VIP clients. Aerial photography via drone and helicopter, underwater trash-the-dress shoots, renting out historic castles. Everything to ensure your wedding becomes legendary. Interesting, Ryan perked up. And how much is the helicopter VIP package? $35,000. But the final product is worth every penny. Those photos will be front and center in the society magazines. Ryan, Emily said quietly, I don't need a helicopter. I just want beautiful pictures of us being happy. But just imagine how impactful it would look. Impactful for who? They eventually landed on a compromise. Paul for the classic photography, but with an add-on outdoor photo session in the park. The most serious conflict happened 2 weeks later when Emily brought over samples for the wedding invitations. Ryan was sitting on the couch scrolling through the news on his phone, not even looking up. Look how beautiful these are. She spread several options out on the coffee table. This one has gold foil embossing, this one has a laser-cut lace pattern, and this one has our custom monogram. Nice, Ryan said, not taking his eyes off the screen. Which one do you like best? Are you serious, Ryan? Do you literally not care what our invitations look like? Emily flared up, noticing he hadn't even glanced at them. He finally looked up and saw her profound disappointment. Whether you know about it or not, it's our wedding, our invitations. Emily's voice rose. Do you not care what our guests are going to receive in the mail? Of course I care, but you're way better at design than I am. It's not about the design, Emily snapped. It's about the fact that you're only participating in this wedding purely on paper. You act like this is some boring corporate obligation. That's not true. Yes, it is. When we picked the venue, you only cared about status. When we talked about the cake, you only cared about other people's opinions. And now you're not even listening to me. Ryan set his phone down, realizing he needed to aggressively take control of the situation. Babe, I'm just exhausted. It's a brutal quarter at work right now, with all the new executive responsibilities. And I don't work? I have a job too, but I still make time for our wedding. You're right. I'm sorry. Should we just cancel the wedding? Emily asked, her voice shaking. If it's such a burden to you, what's the point? He jumped up and pulled her into a tight hug. Babe, what? No. I have waited so long for you to become my wife. Please, forgive me. Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. It's just, I don't know how to express my emotions the way you do. This wedding is such a massive deal to me that I'm terrified of ruining something. Emily melted in his arms. You idiot. You're not going to ruin anything. The only thing that matters is that we're together. Exactly. And everything else is just details. Okay, Then sit down and help me pick the invitations. Look at them for real and give me your honest opinion." Ryan carefully studied the samples and pointed to the most expensive ones, the heavy cardstock with gold foil and monograms. They look incredibly solid and expensive. I love those too. "So we order them?" "We order them." The final weeks before the wedding were a blur of constant running around. Final tuxedo fittings for Ryan, final dress alterations for Emily, curating the set list for the reception band, finalizing the catering menu, booking the limos and floral arrangements. "I can't believe we're getting married tomorrow," Emily said the day before the ceremony when they met up to do a final walkthrough of the hotel ballroom. "Neither can I," Ryan replied. And in that moment, he genuinely couldn't believe it. Tomorrow, he would officially join the Roberts family and gain unrestricted access to their millions. Tomorrow, his master plan would be complete. "Are you scared?" Emily asked. "Of what?" "Of married life. Of the responsibility. Of everything changing." He didn't lie. "I am ready for absolutely everything that awaits us." The morning of the wedding day began with bright sunlight streaming through the windows of the presidential suite at the Grand Plaza Hotel. Ryan woke up with an overwhelming sense of triumph. Today, his most ambitious dream was coming true. Today, he would become Emily Roberts' husband, stepping firmly into the inner circle of one of the city's most powerful tycoons. He got out of bed and walked over to the window. Down below in the hotel gardens, preparations for the reception were in full swing. Staff were setting up tables, decorators were stringing garlands of white roses, and florists were assembling massive centerpieces of peonies and eustomas. Everything looked exactly as he had envisioned it, luxurious, expensive, elite. His phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Good morning, future husband." Her voice carried a level of happiness he had never heard before. "Good morning, future wife. How did you sleep?" "I practically didn't. I'm way too nervous." "You? Perfect. I am totally ready for the most important day of our lives. I'm already at the bridal suite getting my hair and makeup done. Madison is here helping me get ready." "What are you doing?" "Eating breakfast. Sebastian the stylist is coming up soon to help me get squared away. I'll see you at the courthouse." "I love you." "I love you too," Ryan replied, surprised by how easily the lie rolled off his tongue today. At 11 a.m., Sebastian arrived with his assistant. They brought a perfectly pressed designer tuxedo, diamond cufflinks, a wedding gift from Mr. Italian leather shoes, and everything necessary to craft the ultimate image of a young, wildly successful groom. "Today you need to look like royalty," Sebastian said, helping him button the crisp white shirt. "These photos are going to last a lifetime." "That's exactly why I hired the best," Ryan replied, admiring his sharp reflection in the full-length mirror. At 12:30 p.m., the wedding motorcade pulled up. 3 pristine white stretch limousines adorned with ribbons and flowers. Ryan sat up front in the lead car next to the driver, who looked like a chauffeur straight out of a Hollywood movie. The downtown courthouse greeted them with a massive crowd of photographers and guests. Mr. Roberts, dressed in a sleek dark suit, looked incredibly solemn and deeply moved. He pulled his future son-in-law into a tight embrace. "Are you ready, son?" "More than ready," Ryan answered. And in that precise moment, he genuinely felt like he was Martin Roberts' son. "Emily will be here any minute. She looks like an absolute princess today." And it was true. When the bride's limousine pulled up to the building, a collective gasp of awe rippled through the crowd. Emily stepped out of the car in a blindingly white French designer gown, with a dramatically long train and intricate lace sleeves. Her veil caught the autumn wind, and she carried a stunning bouquet of white peonies and roses. "My God," Ryan whispered, and for the very first time, his admiration was entirely genuine. Emily truly looked like a fairy tale princess. A radiant, blissful smile lit up her face, and her eyes sparkled with pure joy. She walked up to him, and he gently kissed her hand. "You look incredibly beautiful, and you are the most handsome man in the world," she whispered back. The official ceremony at the courthouse was brief but profoundly dignified. They exchanged rings under a wave of applause, shared their first kiss as a married couple amidst the blinding flash of cameras, and officially signed the marriage certificate. Ryan looked deep into Emily's eyes and saw so much absolute love and blind trust that, for a fleeting second, his cold heart squeezed with guilt. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the county clerk announced, and the room erupted into cheers. After the legal ceremony, the massive entourage headed back to the Grand Plaza. The hotel's main ballroom was decorated with royal magnificence. High vaulted ceilings, massive crystal chandeliers, and thousands of fresh flowers everywhere. The tables were draped in heavy white linens with gold embroidery, each centered with towering floral arrangements and floating candles. "This is the best day of my life," Emily said as they made their grand entrance into the ballroom to soaring, triumphant music. "You are the most beautiful bride," Ryan kissed her bare shoulder, inhaling the scent of her perfume. The guests gave them a standing ovation. 150 people, Mr. Roberts's business partners, corporate executives, old family friends, all dressed in black tie attire, all smiling, all clapping for him. Ryan looked out over the sea of wealth and felt an overwhelming rush of ego. This was the moment of total triumph. He had actually pulled it off. The first toast was given by the father of the bride. "Dear friends," Mr. Roberts raised his champagne flute. "Today I have a double celebration. My beloved daughter has married a truly worthy man. Ryan, you have just been given the most precious thing I have in this world. My daughter. Take care of her. Love her. Protect her. And Emily, be happy. Mom is looking down on us from heaven, and she is so happy for you both." "To the bride and groom!" the crowd roared in unison. The next toast came from Emily's maid of honor, Madison. "Emily, we've been best friends since we were little girls, and I remember how you used to dream about a prince on a white horse." She laughed through her tears. And then Ryan showed up. "Thank you for making my best friend so incredibly happy. To Love." The director of marketing at Golden Horizons gave a speech about what a brilliant, rising star Ryan was in the corporate world, and how perfectly everything had aligned. A senior business partner told a classic joke about the trials of married life. Emily's old college buddy played an acoustic song on his guitar. Ryan sat there, soaking in all the speeches, feeling like the king of the world. He had secured everything he ever wanted. A gorgeous wife from a filthy rich family, a high-ranking executive position, society status, endless money, and unlimited future prospects. His master plan had executed flawlessly. "Babe, you look so deep in thought," Emily said, grabbing his hand. "What are you thinking about?" "About how lucky I am. I have you. Your family accepted me. We have an incredibly beautiful life ahead of us." "We really do." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I love you so much." "I love you too," he replied. And in that euphoric moment, he almost convinced himself he was capable of actually loving her. The live band started playing a slow acoustic ballad, and the newlyweds took the floor for their first dance. Ryan spun Emily across the polished dance floor under the admiring gazes of the city's elite. She felt light as a feather, her dress flowing around her like a cloud. "Are we a beautiful couple?" she whispered. "The most beautiful couple in the world." After the dance, the gift-giving began. Gold jewelry, fine crystal vases, expensive artwork, bearer bonds. Mr. Roberts handed them a small velvet box containing the keys to a luxury 3-bedroom condo in downtown Chicago, along with first-class tickets for a European honeymoon. "Dad, this is way too much," Emily blushed. "Nonsense. My daughter deserves to live like a princess." Everything was going perfectly. The guests were drinking and laughing. The band was playing Emily's favorite songs. The photographer was capturing every single second of their picture-perfect joy. Ryan finally let his guard down and actually started to enjoy the reception. And then, suddenly, he saw her. Standing in the far, dark corner of the ballroom, right next to a marble pillar, was a woman in a cheap, dark dress. She was devastatingly thin, aged far beyond her years, with messy, totally gray hair. But he would have recognized her out of a crowd of 1,000,000 people. Mrs. Vance, his mother. Ryan's heart completely stopped. He felt all the blood drain from his face. How the hell did she get here? She wasn't supposed to be released for another 2 years. His mother was staring at him from across the ballroom, and in her hollow eyes, he saw a horrifying mixture of profound agony, shattering disappointment, and pure, unadulterated rage. She looked like a ghost from his buried past, sent straight from hell to completely incinerate his new life. "Babe, you're ghost white." Emily looked alarmed. "Did something happen?" "No, everything is fine. Just a little warm in here." He violently loosened his bow tie, but Mrs. Vance was already walking straight across the ballroom floor toward the head table. The wealthy guests naturally parted ways for the strange, haggard woman, watching her determined march with utter confusion. Ryan instantly realized he only had seconds to do something. He jumped up from his chair and walked rapidly toward his mother, desperately hoping to intercept her and drag her out into the hallway, far away from the guests. "You were not invited here," he hissed through his teeth, blocking her path right in the middle of the dance floor. "Get the hell out of here immediately." "Hello, son." Mrs. Vance smiled a bitter, broken smile. "Don't recognize your own mother?" "Convicts have no place at my wedding," he yelled, much louder than he intended. His vicious words were picked up by the closest tables. The loud chatter immediately died down. The band's music suddenly seemed deafeningly loud. The frail woman stared at her son, unable to comprehend the monster he had become. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Babe, what is going on?" Emily walked up behind Ryan, her face full of concern. "Who is this woman?" "Nobody. Just some crazy lady who snuck in to ruin our night." "But you told me your mom passed away," Emily said suddenly, looking closely at the stranger's face. "So, I died, did I?" Mrs. Vance let out a dark, mocking laugh through her tears. More guests began to stand up and crowd around them. Mr. Roberts hurried over, demanding to know what was disrupting the reception. "What's the meaning of this? Who is this woman?" the CEO demanded. Mrs. Vance turned her gaze to him and instantly recognized his face. The man hadn't changed at all in 10 years, the same aristocratic features, the same commanding posture. She remembered his face perfectly from all the newspaper clippings during her criminal trial. "Mr. Roberts," she said, her voice shaking but clear, "do you remember me?" He furrowed his brow, squinting at her, trying to place the face. "Bonnie Vance. I served time in the state penitentiary for the death of your wife." The entire ballroom paralyzed. The band abruptly stopped playing. The waiters froze in place with trays of champagne hovering in the air. Every single guest turned completely silent, staring at the confrontation in the center of the floor. What are you doing here?" Mr. Roberts asked, completely bewildered. "Parole. They let me out early for good behavior." She had fully intended to just leave, but her eyes fell on the beautiful, glowing bride in the stunning white dress. "And this is your daughter. Such a beautiful girl. It is an absolute pity she's marrying her mother's killer." "What the hell are you talking about?" Emily screamed. Mrs. Vance realized there was absolutely no reason to stay silent anymore. For 10 brutal years, she had served someone else's prison sentence. For 10 years, her son had lived out a glamorous new life, completely erasing what he had done. It was time for justice. She walked straight past Ryan, over to the band stage, picked up the MC's microphone, and switched it on. The massive ballroom held its breath in dead silence. 10 years ago, my son Ryan got into a screaming match with his girlfriend, got blackout drunk, and got behind the wheel, she began, her voice echoing over the PA system, trembling with emotion. He caused a horrible accident that killed the wife of a very prominent businessman. "Shut up!" Ryan screamed, lunging forward to rip the microphone out of her hands. He came to me, sobbing on his knees, begging me to take the blame. Mrs. Vance yelled into the mic, dodging him. He cried that he had his whole life ahead of him, that he was going to corporate, that he would change, that he would take care of me until my dying day. And then, after I took the fall and they locked me away, he came to visit me in prison. He looked me in the eyes and told me he had sold my apartment to move away and hide from the shame. Emily slowly backed away from her husband, covering her mouth with both trembling hands in absolute horror. Because people were pointing fingers at him, calling him the son of a murderer, he legally changed his last name from Vance to a fake one, Sterling, and fled to Chicago. And tonight he is marrying the daughter of the exact same woman he slaughtered. The mother sobbed openly into the microphone. A graveyard silence fell over the luxurious room. The elite guests stood frozen like statues, completely unable to process the sheer horror of what they were hearing. "You have absolutely nothing sacred left in you," his mother said, dropping the mic and staring dead at her son. "To get your money and your perfect life, you decided to walk over everyone's dead bodies. But the truth always claws its way out. Remember that. I raised you so much better than this." Mr. Roberts was in a state of absolute shock. He looked frantically back and forth between Ryan and the crying woman, his brain fighting to process the devastating reality. "Is it true?" he asked in a barely audible whisper. Ryan stood dead silent. His eyes darted around the room. He knew it was over. Everything was completely over. "Answer me!" his father-in-law roared, his voice shattering the silence. It was a long time ago. I was just a stupid kid." "You killed my wife!" Mr. Roberts screamed with animalistic fury, lunging forward and grabbing Ryan violently by the lapels of his designer tuxedo. "No, wait. Let me explain." "Explain?" The older man slammed him brutally against the marble pillar. "You married my daughter knowing you butchered her mother in the street? I'm going to put you in a cage, you piece of trash. I will make sure you rot behind bars for the rest of your miserable life." Emily stood paralyzed in the center of the dance floor in her gorgeous, custom white gown, the horrifying realization crashing down on her that she had just pledged her life to the man who ripped her mother away from her. Thick black tears of mascara streamed down her cheeks, ruining her flawless makeup. "How could you?" she whimpered, her voice breaking. "How could you look me in the eyes, touch me, say you loved me, knowing what you did to her?" Ryan desperately tried to pry Mr. Roberts' hands off his throat, but the older man held him with the terrifying strength of pure, unfiltered grief. "Emily, please, forgive me. I wanted to tell you. I was going to tell you." On her son's wedding night, Mrs. Vance looked around the utterly destroyed ballroom, the sobbing, shattered bride, the violently enraged father, the horrified elite guests. She realized her mission was finally complete. Justice had been served, even if it was a decade late. She turned around and silently walked out the front doors of the lavish hotel. Outside, it was pouring rain. She had no money, no home, and no son. But for the first time in 10 long years, as the cold rain washed over her face, she finally felt completely free from the lie. Back inside the hotel ballroom, total chaos erupted. The high society guests were in a panic, screaming and arguing. Someone had already dialed 911. Mr. Roberts was still pinning a choking Ryan against the wall, and Emily had collapsed onto the floor, sobbing hysterically into the arms of her bridesmaids. The $1 million fairy tale wedding had morphed into a living nightmare, and the beautiful, magazine-cover love story was exposed as a monstrous, blood-soaked fraud. 6 months later, Bonnie Vance was fully exonerated, and her criminal record was completely cleared. Ryan Sterling, born Ryan Vance, was sentenced to 15 years in a maximum security state penitentiary for vehicular manslaughter with aggravating circumstances, perjury, and felony hit and run. He was finally paying the price for the cowardly mistake he made 10 years ago, and for the psychotic mountain of lies he had built his entire adult life upon. As for his mother, she eventually got a job working at a local nursing home. There, she found not only steady work, but a roof over her head, a supportive community, and the daily opportunity to help vulnerable people, finally finding peace after her long years of forced, agonizing silence.